Real life.
Superpowers.
Up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane!
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
It's alive!
Real life.
Superpowers.
We're here with Tal Zubalsky, co-founder and CPO at Eko, the world's only streaming service where all the content is interactive. Tal, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Great. What are you up to these days?
We have a lot of work on our hands. We're starting to release kind of ongoing programming. Actually released the first show of our summer releases just 2 weeks ago.
Cool. What show is that?
It's a collaboration with BuzzFeed. I don't know if you're familiar with the Tasty brand of BuzzFeed. We took Tasty food videos that BuzzFeed makes and we make them interactive. We don't take existing ones, we shoot them ourselves so that they're inherently interactive. The choice is part of what drives your experience.
Did you guys, a lot of people in the industry are asking, do you guys have anything to do with the Black Mirror episode?
The last season.
The last season?
Yes, not directly. This is Netflix did it their own. Obviously, they came into a space that we are leading, and they've been looking and following what we do, and we've been in some contact with them, but we don't have anything to do with it technically.
What is the chance that in years to come we're going to see a movie where people take polls inside the movie and decide what's the next thing the president's going to do? Is he going to attack Iraq or not? And people are going to choose, and the content is going to change in the same second. Is there a chance that's going to happen?
We obviously believe there's a huge chance it's going to happen. That's why we've been doing what we've been doing. Currently, we're focusing less on film and more on kind of, mobile content, where people are experiencing, daily content to kind of break this to the mainstream. But definitely it's going to go to bigger screens, both, in your living room and at cinemas at some stage.
And you've been around for 10 years almost, right?
Yeah, close to that.
So take us back to the beginning. How did this all start?
So we come from a creative background. I studied animation and played music in Tel Aviv. I started to get into this whole world of, technology and startups with two of my high school friends. But that was before Eko, which was used to called Interlude, started. The CEO and a good friend of mine is Yoni Bloch. He's a famous singer in Israel, and I played with him in the band. I still do. So anyways, part of trying to find, new technologically powered ways of engaging our audience, we had this idea for an interactive music video for ourselves, for the band. One thing led to another. We started getting amazing feedback on this, and we started to see that there is a potential for something much bigger here than just one single music video for the band.
And this was when?
This was around 2010.
And in Tel Aviv?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what happened?
That was actually around the same time that Yoni was a judge in the Israeli version of American Idol. So he had a lot of connections there, and we had this idea that, okay, we're getting really good feedback for our own thing, then there's potential for something bigger here. Let's maybe test if it's a valid thing outside of just this, single music video. And we pitched them. I don't know if it's still like that, but at the time, all of the contestants that kind of audition, they sing the same song, like the audition song. So we basically pitched them and told them, you have all of these talented people singing the same song. Just give us the footage and we'll create an awesome interactive experience where you can switch which singer is singing the next part, and you will also see some of the data of who people pick the most and stuff like that. And we kind of sold them on that. We didn't have any technology or anything. We kind of had our own demo, and they were on board, and that was our first project.
So that was your first deal with this technology?
We didn't have technology. We kind of sold them on the idea, understanding that if they'll buy in, we'll need to figure it out. And they did. And we had, I think it was 2 months or something to build something, and that was pretty intense because we didn't have much. And this was a very highly rated show in Israel. It got a lot of traffic, so we had a very short time to kind of build something.
Did you freak out? Did you know like what you're gonna do now that they agreed? Like, did you think they're gonna agree?
We were hoping they would agree. We haven't fully, figured out what we're going to do if they agree. But that's I think part of the excitement. It was obviously very exciting. I think that was kind of, the tipping point where we understood that this can actually be a business. It's not just this like fun little thing we did for ourselves.
And tell me, like, what I'm intrigued about is, okay, so I love the fact that you just did a video because you thought it was a cool idea. Then you pitched it, to have like kind of a proof of concept. But what's interesting to me is, what is, like, you have major investments and major board of directors. What was what were they so excited about? It makes the content better, I understand. It has engagement with the audience, and you get real statistics. That I get it. The content has to be a lot more complex, so it's also more challenging to produce something that's interactive. And like the brands, when you pitch them, bigger brands, okay, what was the most exciting thing that they saw about it? The fact that it was engaging, the fact that they had statistics, the fact that it's the future of content. Like, what was the biggest belief?
So I think, the answer to that question is also our own understanding of what we're kind of inventing here, right? Like at the beginning, we didn't really understand a lot of it. We saw the potential, but couldn't kind of articulate what it is that is being developed by us. And, as months and years started passing and us, at the beginning bootstrapping and then kind of getting the first investment and starting to scale, like as all these things happened, and until today, and again, this is like almost 10 years in, we're still finding out how bigger the potential of this thing and the actual, at this stage, it's not potential anymore, right? It's like, it's happening.
Like, what's your client today? Like, give me an example of a client.
So I think that again, the answer to that question would be very different in different kind of parts of our lives as a company. So the question is if you're more interested to kind of, how we started or where we are now today, because the model has really changed over the years.
So when was the time that you decided that you're not going to do this in Israel and that you're going to move overseas and sort of go for this full time, all in?
That's a good question, because at the beginning we actually didn't go all in. It was, Yoni was a musician, full-time musician in Israel, successful. I had my startup before Eko with the two of my high school friends, which I mentioned before, and Eko, which was called Interlude at the time, wasn't yet like a full-time gig for any of us. We kind of tried it out to see, to kind of assess if it's going in the right direction. I think there was a point. I don't have a great memory, so I can't kind of put it on the calendar, but there was a point where Yoni was flying to New York for the first time after we did the Israeli Idol project. So, he was equipped with the use case and with the, the kind of first versions of our technology and presentations and stuff like that. And I think that was kind of, the point where he came back from New York after that first visit, and, he took a lot of meetings and he got connected to a lot of people here. Then he came back to Israel and he was like, okay, guys, like we need to go all in on this. Let's focus on building a company. And, I had a hard decision to make, obviously, because I had another company. So I ended up, joining forces with Barak and Yoni to start Interlude. At the time, we were called Interlude.
So what did you do with your startup? Like, what did you tell the guys that you were working on it with?
This is an interesting kind of a path. Like if we're looking at life as this, kind of series of choices we make, which is a lot of what Eko is about, and that was like a big, meaningful choice for me to make. So my two partners, which again are good friends till this day, so they. At this stage, we kind of didn't do only our own product. We were also like this services company developing like web apps for a lot of other clients. So when I joined Balak and Yoni to start Interlude, they basically decided to stop doing client work and focus back on building their own product. They worked on a product they took to 500 startups, which ended up being very successful. And actually, one of them ended up being 500 startups investor in Israel. This is Adam Benayoun. So it's kind of interesting to see how things rolled out. But kind of great path for everyone at the end of the day.
When you actually experienced and tried out the product in so many different ways, so you showed people how you can use the product, and it's not like an ad tech or just a content. It can do anything for anybody. And at the end of the day, after you did that, who was the specific clients that you targeted afterwards? Like after you learned, and it's sort of like a scanner. You scanned and showed people the different ways to use it. What was the conclusion at the end of the day? Like, who is your client?
So that's a good question that I think kind of leads us from, if this was kind of the first evolution of our company was a testing period to kind of a validation period to validate that this is indeed a very horizontal thing, then once we've proven that, we've started to actually build it into an actual platform. Up until that stage, even from a product and technical perspective, we didn't yet have as an authoring tool for other people to create their own interactive videos on top of our platform. We were kind of essentially we were inventing a programming language for interactive videos that only we knew. And we used that programming language to create all of these interactive videos and campaigns or whatever that would be. When that led us to the second phase of our lives, which also kind of aligns with getting a round of investment so that we can scale the company and hire more people to build a bigger product. That's where we went to start building the platform. So we rolled out a product that initially was called Treehouse. Today it's called Eko Studio. This is the product where everyone can sign up, come and just create their own Eko videos, their own interactive experiences and videos. And we started to experiment with the business model. So as we were starting to be a platform company, we were trying a freemium model. We were trying kind of licensing it out to more premium partners that want to create more premium content. We did a lot of branded content with it because you have to pay the bills, and the most successful application of it at those days from business model was licensing it out for advertisers, like for example Coke, or we actually did both Coke and Pepsi, and car companies, like really brands across the board. They just wanted to get their hands on this like innovative piece of technology to run interactive branded content pieces and ads. So a lot of the revenue in the earlier years kind of came from that.
From advertising.
It's not exactly advertising on our platform. It's using our product and platform to create advertising for their brands that they distribute in other places. And
yeah, so you supplied a platform so that Coca-Cola, for example, can use to make better content, and at the end of the day, advertise their brand.
So that was kind of our midlife evolution as a company.
Okay, and today is it the same thing?
So not exactly. Today it started to evolve. So it has evolved kind of dramatically. So if that's what we were doing back then, probably around, I guess, 4-ish years ago. Again, my memory is not that good, so sorry I'm not more accurate on timelines. Around 4 years ago, we made a pretty big strategic decision. We looked at where we were as a company, and we thought that we are on this trajectory to become, the leading platform behind interactive videos, right? Like we didn't have competitors or even not any substantial ones. So we were kind of on our own, developing and providing this platform. And we were on this trajectory to kind of own that space of being the platform for interactive video, for premium interactive video. So, but we saw that there is a problem because the majority of, from a business perspective, the majority of the use cases, like I mentioned, was, brands kind of licensing it out to create ads for themselves. This again paid the bills, but this wasn't effective in bringing it to the mainstream, just to consumers' pockets, to their phones, to their televisions. And if you remember, like what we did in the first few years was to prove that this is a new medium, right? It's not just a piece of ad tech. And what drives us, until today, every day, is that we are bringing a new medium to the world, right? And to bring a new medium to the world, like right now we're doing a podcast, right? Like podcasts weren't a thing not that long ago, right? It's a new medium that's emerged, that exploded and emerged because technology enabled it. And what we're doing is basically bringing a new medium to the world, and to bring it to the world at scale and for mainstream audiences. We felt that the path of us kind of banking on being the platform, we felt wasn't the right move, wasn't gonna lead us, at least not fast enough. At that point, we made a pretty big decision that we said, okay, we're building the platform, but the big potential here, at least in the short to midterm, is to build a media company. Because if you think about it, what we did was gave our platform to other media companies to use for their own purposes of getting and engaging audiences, right? What if we start to use our own platform to get our own audience? And part of that decision was we're going to go into premium content, not user-generated content. We're going to go with a free model, not a subscription model, because this is a new medium. People aren't going to subscribe to something they don't yet understand. So we're going to just provide it for free. And it's going to be monetized by brand integration and advertising, which we have a clear point of view on. We're not just running pre-rolls. The advertisements themselves, are interactive and are based on our platform. So
let me get this straight for a second. So, and this is intriguing. So, a media company. So, meaning, if I understand correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you are today is a content, like a media platform as a content provider of content that is interactive, only interactive content. So let's call it like this. Let's say the Netflix for interactive content.
You can call it like this. I don't love the comparison because there are a lot of differences, right? Like again, Netflix from a business model perspective are a subscription service, we're a free service. They're focused on TVs, we're focused on mobile. So
I can use YouTube for a different example, or Facebook Watch.
But again,
I get it.
Yeah, I think you get it. I think the focus is free, premium, interactive entertainment, very mobile focused, again in the short to midterm.
And how many co-founders were you that packed up your belongings and just went overseas to go all in on this venture?
So we were 3 co-founders. Like I mentioned, it's Barak Feldman, Yoni Bloch, and myself. Yoni moved here first, I think probably like 8 years ago or something. Barak followed suit pretty quickly. I stayed in Israel to kind of, run the Israeli office and build it out. And when we found our very, very talented CTO and VP R&D, Yuval Chofshi, then really shortly after, I and the product team kind of moved to New York. Like the majority of our developers in R&D and QA are still in Israel.
How did it feel to sort of have to collaborate on this venture together for years? There's got to be ups and downs, stuff that you don't agree on. What's the day-to-day like?
I think like all of the cliches are true. It's like a crazy roller coaster. There are the ups, there are the downs, and it's on a daily basis. And the more we get to bigger scale and the company grows and the opportunities grow and the funding grows, the higher the roller coaster climbs and the lower it can dip. So I think it's pretty intense. If you go into starting a company thinking in a few years it's going to be easy, then 10 years in, it's the craziest it's ever been, which is obviously exciting, but it's not easy.
Like, this is a big challenge because now you have to make the content, or are you buying the content? Like, how does that work now?
So the model is we actually if you think about it, almost like a movie fund, right? Like movie funds, they raised funding from all kinds of different partners to make content, to make movies. So we're kind of using a similar model, right? We partner with all kinds of companies like Sony and MGM, and recently the biggest commercial deal we signed was with Walmart last year. So these companies, they basically fund the creation of shows on our platform. And we're not a production studio, we're still a platform, right? So we don't make the content ourselves. We find the right creative partners and production partners, and we train them and we educate them on the platform. We help them understand how to think interactive, because it's very, very different than thinking about developing a linear show. We find these teams, we fund them, we train them. They go out and create eco content. To make to simplify the model, then basically at the end of the day, we roll out the content. We get to viewers. Again, we make money from advertising, and we share the revenue with the content founders. So this is kind of the simplification of the model as it is now.
And I also heard not long ago that Snapchat, the director of Snapchat, is on board.
So Snapchat, we are in a lot of communication with them. We were supposed to do a show last year that didn't work out. We're still in contact with them and developing stuff, but nothing is out yet.
And you're saying that it's not easy, and I believe you. And any entrepreneur that we speak with is always saying, truthfully, that there's so many challenges. And I'm curious, like, how do you overcome those challenges? How do you handle your stress? How do you resolve disagreements that you have with the rest of the team?
It's a big question. I think we need to break it down. First of all, when we talk about team dynamics, I think it's all about finding the right people, right? Like, we started the company with 3 people. Now we're probably getting close to 80 or 90. And it's very hard to, maintain kind of the DNA and the dynamics that you're used to. And I think part of the challenge is to understand that you don't necessarily need to maintain the same thing. You just need to evolve. You need to evolve the culture. You need to evolve the way of communication. You need to just constantly learn and improve how you communicate better, how you make processes better. And I think with that mindset, if you marry that with finding the right people that are like-minded and that they have the same approach, then at least, as it goes to kind of growing the company and maintaining good communication and, being good and not too slow and not too fast at making decisions and all of those things that have to do with, with the team, then I think, that I would say, it's not a secret, but that would be the secret sauce. It's just finding the right people and having that growth mindset and that test and iterate, not only on your technology and products, but also on your team and processes.
How do you know that you've got the right people with you, or that you're now trying to find a co-founder? What do you look for?
That's a very hard question because, when you ask about finding a co-founder, personally, I was never in that position, right? I started a company before Eko with 2 of my best friends from high school. I started Eko with Yoni, who I play with for years, and is a very, very good friend, and Barak, who writes all of the music for Yoni's songs, and he's a very, very good friend. So it always, for me at least, kind of, happened organically. So it's very hard for me to imagine, kind of needing to find a co-founder. That sounds to me like a very, very hard task. I think generally the best thing to do is to test. I think interview processes are very, very hard. Even in like an extensive interview process with exercises and whatever, at the end of the day, it's only like very few hours of data that you get from interfacing with the person. I find it, at least on hiring, that a very good path is to just start working with people, not necessarily always as a full-time. It's not a fit for every position, but when it's a fit, it can work out really well that, you start out with people, as contractors or consultants, and you align that there is a very clear path to them joining full time, but that kind of sets up the first few months as a mutual testing period, right? Like you see that it works for them, they see that it works for you, and if it doesn't work out, then it's much less painful for all sides. So I find this is, a pretty good path to kind of assessing that you're finding the right people, just starting to work together, basically.
Do you guys have some sort of way between you to see how you agree to disagree? Like, does somebody have some sort of veto rights? How do you handle disagreements that must happen?
So we have this, we call it the values booklet, and it took us some time to kind of develop it. That's kind of, the values of Eko. At the beginning, kind of coming from Israel and coming from, a rock band, this was weird for us to even, try to go through that exercise of like, how can you, put your actual values on paper in a way that it doesn't feel ridiculous. But again, with that growth mindset and understanding that we're growing as a company, and we need to understand how we can maintain the right things as we scale, then we actually took it as an opportunity, and actually Yoni and I sat and went through this exercise of like, if we would need to write, the values of the band, how would they look like? And that was an interesting exercise because, it's like anxiety and chaos and like stuff like that actually help productivity and help creativity in a band setting. And we try to kind of see how we can translate the good things out of this to the values of the company that we're trying to build and grow. So at the end of the day, we netted out with this actual kind of small poem, a short poem that kind of exemplifies our values. And some of them are like, you need to kind of strap a saddle on chaos, right? Like if you want to succeed in Eko, you need to be able to really clearly work in a chaotic by design environment. And it's something that, you talk to people when they're kind of being interviewed or assessed to join, and you find that it's really helpful.
Is it actually a poem?
Yeah, it's a poem.
Do you have it with you?
I do.
Do you want to read it to us?
Maybe not all of it, but maybe parts of it.
Sure.
So the title of it is "We Are All Artists," and I think that's kind of the first and foremost value of Eko. Eko is, at the end of the day, a platform technological company, right? Like this is what we raised the funding to be. We're a scalable business, but the engine that actually drives us is very creative, right? We haven't started a company to kind of, answer a specific business need or anything like that. It's all started for creative reasons. And, 10 years in, getting up every morning, this is what drives anyone that works at Eko at the end of the day. Even if you're in finance, the financials, for example, of Eko aren't comparable to anything in the world because it's not like a TV show. It's not like a game. It's somewhere in between. There aren't any specific models that you can use. So you need to be very, very creative across the board, no matter what you do at Eko. So I think the title of "We Are All Artists" kind of encompasses that. Mm-hmm. We are terrified of wasting time. We hit unrealistic goals, throw a party and set some more. We act passionately, help each other flourish. And when we screw up, we learn quickly and move on. We use data, facts, logic, and intuition. When we don't have the first three, we trust our guts and we trust each other. So stuff like that, I think we love a good fight. We love a good laugh. We speak our minds, listen closely, and never hold a grudge. So that specifically, was a pretty, there were a lot of heated discussions around it, right? Like there is the Israeli culture. There's now, the biggest office is here in New York. It's probably close to like 60 people at this stage. And there aren't a lot of Israelis at this stage in the New York office. As you know, like the Israeli culture is present, right? Like we can be loud, but we really wanted to align with everyone that they need to understand that us being loud is not an act of like fighting. It's an act of passion, right? Like we're passionate about what we're saying.
But this is so beautiful because it's like you took some very standard, at least these days, concept of writing down your company values. And even that you turned into something that's creative and sort of added your angle to it by creating a poem out of it and making it almost a song, right?
Yeah, we illustrated it and printed it on like nice booklets. So.
And how come you didn't ever play along with the guitar to this?
Good question. I don't know that it's constructed in a way that it can become a song.
Or maybe a video sometime on Eko of your values, and then people can choose their values within the values.
Maybe.
Like one of the things that I really like about you guys that you're super creative. Like I saw your Carry Company core values. I know that it's not only your content, but you talked about values. So there's a company that did through your technology an interactive video of how their values. Like you're walking through the office and things happen, and you have to react to that. And I always see the content itself. I think one of the amazing things that your platform is doing, and I hope it's on purpose. I probably think it's on purpose. You'll tell me if it's by mistake. Is actually opening up people's mind to different kind of content. So I remember when I was young, I used to read books that you could choose how the next thing can happen. Do you remember those books?
Choose your own adventure.
I'm very old already.
Choose your own adventure.
Okay, so choose your own adventure. But nowadays, doing that through video is going to, it could potentially, and that's what I asked in the video, change the way people see music. I hope that's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, so that's exactly that. Basically, if you think about it, then if you think about what technology brought and the internet kind of brought to our digital lives, then like everything is interactive, right? Like you look at your Instagram feed, it's interactive, it's personalized, it's yours, right? No one else has the same Instagram feed as you. Like your games are in your pockets, they're yours. Like even the way we learn is like you go to Wikipedia and you follow this like very personal path of hyperlinks. And that's the way we do everything digitally, right? But if you think about video largely remained the same for decades. Right. Even with the technological revolution, then video is still something you click play and you get a single-sided stream, right? Everyone gets the same stream. You don't get any interactivity, any personalization, and that doesn't make sense. And 10 years ago, it made sense because technology wasn't there yet. Like computing powers of mobile devices were too slow, bandwidth were too low. Like they couldn't carry the actual. So I think in that sense, when we started the company, we were actually ahead of our times in a few years from a technological perspective. But now we're in 2019. Like the devices are super strong, bandwidth are super high, and technology is there. And gladly, we have been in the forefront of that technology for many years. So for video to make that leap to the digital age is just like it's got to happen, right? And gladly now we're not the only ones saying and doing it, right? Which really validates that this is becoming a new thing.
Right. And as the genius behind the product, what would be for entrepreneurs today the 3 golden rules or your golden rules to succeed in making a product that works?
Good question. I think one would definitely be, again, that same kind of growth mindset. Don't be fixed on anything. Basically, we know nothing, so we need to prove everything. You need to have good hypotheses. Obviously, you need to be very creative with your ideas and with the directions of what you want to develop. But try to do the minimum amount of effort you can do to make something that you can test and validate your assumptions as fast as you can, because you just don't know. You don't know what's going to work. Sometimes you know, most times you probably don't. You're going to get a lot of surprises. So you just want to be surprised as fast as you can. That would be one thing. Another thing would be to just, I kind of call it kind of squeeze your brain, because when you think about features, big or small, then you always have the first thing that come to mind, and you just need to squeeze your brain, like come up with 10 different ways of solving that problem. Don't settle on like 1 or 2 ways. When you start to squeeze your brain, you get to ideas that you would never think about. a lot of times your first idea will actually be the best one, but you have to go through that exercise of just like challenging yourself and your team with coming up with many more directions and variations than kind of your intuition tells you.
Work on your creative muscle.
Yeah, and lastly, I think again it's back to the team. It's like find the right people. Even if you're a small company, even if you're just starting, and it's you and just 2-3 people starting something from nothing. Even if you're not hiring yet, just find the right people to surround yourself with, to ping pong ideas, to test ideas on, to kind of do this back and forth, because it's the only thing that can propel it forward is several minds pushing something forward. It's very hard to pull this off by yourself.
And where do you imagine yourself in 2 years?
You guys have really good questions. 2 years is an interesting time because, like I mentioned, end of last year we closed a very, very big commercial deal with Walmart. They have invested close to $250 million in creating content on our platform, and that is a 2-year. The initial phase of this deal is 2 years. So in 2 years, we're gonna find ourselves with pretty big programming. Again, $250 million worth of interactive content that starts to break to the mainstream, starts to have like critical acclaim, be organic hits. This thing will become will break. Currently, I think it's still not. People still don't understand this medium. If you just ask people in the world, like you mentioned before, some people saw Bandersnatch, some people saw our stuff, but it's currently very, very kind of small single events in time that come and go. What we've started 2 weeks ago with the launch of the first show is ongoing programming, right? We're going to keep releasing week to week, month to month, more and more shows. We're developing dozens of shows. So in 2 years, we're just going to have a pretty extensive slate at that time of shows of many different shapes and sizes, with audiences that follow,
and a lot of data that you can learn from by then.
Yeah, a lot of data that's going to help us improve the programming and kind of find the people that are most excited about this thing. And I think that's where we're going to start to kind of go to the slightly longer term strategy of Eko, which is back to being, the platform behind other big use cases. So right now, again, we're focused on being like a media company and a premium live action interactive entertainment company. That's the short to mid-term goal. The longer term goal is to branch it out to like user generated content, for like, quote unquote, the YouTube of interactive. Or education. You can imagine amazing applications in education for our technology. Right now, we're not focused on that at all. Healthcare, there are like real estate, like there are so many different things that could be done on our platform that right now we're trying to keep the focus on entertainment, again, to break this to the mainstream. Mm-hmm. So in 2 years, I think we're going to start to roll out, these additional kind of bigger platform plays of our technology.
I think we should regroup in 2 years and discuss this again.
Yes.
And what would you say, to sum it up, what's your superpower?
I think I learned very fast.
So, okay, that actually works for me for you, because I find that the 3 notes were nicely sung. So like the first one you said, be flexible and agile, be ready for surprises. So having surprises, you probably have to learn pretty quickly to handle that afterwards. And having many solutions for problems, even if the first one feels that it's good enough, it means that, again, you're ready to learn at any moment. And also finding the right team, of course, that always helps. So those rules for product people will probably help them a lot.
And then I also always got to ask the more challenging question of what's your kryptonite. Although I find that a lot of people have a lot of an easier time to say what they're not as good at, as opposed to saying what their superpower is. So, give us one.
I think probably I think we call it in New York, it's called like red tape. I think when you get to a certain size and when you work with big companies, and there's a lot of process involved, and it comes in the way of running fast and learning fast. I think that would probably be my biggest kryptonite, like when things just, the way the world works, quote unquote, starts to slow you down. That's the hardest part.
A rock star entrepreneur becoming corporate. That could be a challenge. I totally get you on that one. It's just a different speed and it changes the feeling. How does that feel for you though, that change?
It's mixed feelings because, like I said, in order to grow a company, you have to acknowledge that you're not going to stay the same when you grow. Like it's like a person, right? People change, definitely in the first many years of their lives. And they get molded and then they take shape. So you have to understand that the company is like that as well. And so I think the comforting part is you understand and you're part of this growth, and you're in a good position to affect and steer this growth to go to good directions and not bad directions. So even as we're acknowledging, that the team is growing and you have to have more processes and you have to have more layers and all of those different things that come with growing a company, we just need to, again, lean into our values to make sure that as we grow, we kind of stay true to who we are. We don't slow ourselves down. Definitely, being slowed down by partners is one thing. Being slowed down by ourselves is a different thing. You have much more control over that. So we just need to play our cards right.
Amazing. I'm super excited to see when we speak again where you're going to be at.
Yes. Yeah, it's like very, very exciting times now.
Tal, thank you so much for your time. Wish you best of luck. We love the idea, and we're definitely content people, so we'll watch anything that you give us, and keep on like doing one of the biggest things that Israel is providing right now. Like you're one of the most promising startups. I can't even call it a startup, anyways. Businesses coming out of Israel, and keep on succeeding and making us proud.
We're rooting for you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Real life.
Superpowers.
Up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane!
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
It's alive!
Real life.
Superpowers.